What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? Happy Friday, y'all. I'm super excited to be with y'all today. And today I am joined with a very special guest. We're chatting about freedom is the new flex in your business. So, y'all know I had to bring on Miss Cindy Constable, who is living the globalpreneur life and working her business at the same time. So let me introduce myself. If you're brand new to me, brand new to my lives, my name is Chanel. Coaches and experts hire me when they want to dominate on social media. And I do that with cash generating social media strategies so that you can have more freedom and flexibility in your business to attract in the dream clients that you love. So I'm here today with Cindy. Cindy, introduce yourself, and then we're going to jump right into the conversation.
Good morning, Chanel. I am happy to be here joining you all the way from Colombia today. That's where we're at in the world currently. So I don't know if there was that show like Where in the World's Waldo. So
Uh
we're in
huh.
the Cindy. She's in
That's
Colombia
what I
today.
said. One day you need to do one of those.
That should probably be a show we should start. But so, we specialize in large publication strategy. So basically, we help our clients to get published in large publications through an online education portal membership program. We write for large publications that pay us. So that's like the main thing that we do. So we're published in lots of places. So nowadays we're called journalist entrepreneurs. That's kind of
Okay.
what you're referred to as, because back in the day you had to be a staff writer or like a traditional journalist, freelance journalist. But publications need so much content because it's a 24/7 cycle, like everything. And so we write for lots of large publications, places like Insider, Travel and Leisure, Black Enterprise, Entrepreneur Parents, all these different magazines that pay us to write for them. And then, of course, we create some content because, well, content kind of is the way of life in the internet
Hmm.
space nowadays. So we have our YouTube channel where we kind of chronicle our travels. We are empty nesters, 6 kids, 2 grandkids. Everybody's either in college or married, and we don't live anywhere. We sold our house, our cars, everything we own, and we just travel the world freely.
I
That's
love it. I
where we
love
are.
it. And this is really why I love Cindy's story is let's be honest, you don't really see a whole lot of black and brown people just selling off all their stuff and then just completely switching up the game on how they go about going about their business, right? And so a lot of times we wait until we're retired to like travel the world. But tell me a little bit about, like you mentioned, like your family, your friends, your kids are, in college, you have grandkids. What was that like to, from a mindset standpoint, to take everything and say, you know what, I'm putting my husband first and we're leaving.
Well, yes. So, from a societal standpoint, right? As a mom, a grandma, just you know, a woman identifying
Hmm.
in general, the caretaker is what is expected, right? You have to be there for your kids, be there, and now you have grandkids, and I'm Hispanic, so there's that little Spanish grandma trope, that you that you'll hear.
Hmm.
Um, and we just decided that we wanted to kind of bust out of some of those societal norms. And we were already doing that from a work standpoint, right? I retired from my traditional job as a CFO back in 2018, you know because remote work wasn't an option.
Right.
Fast
So
forward a
called,
couple years
right.
later,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, it's not possible. Okay.
Hmm.
But
Right.
little did we know. But so we traveled a lot, just generally speaking. So we traveled pretty extensively, but for short periods of time. A week here, maybe 2 weeks, like that. And we just love travel so much, and there's so much we want to see.
Hmm.
And I was like, I don't really want to wait until I'm old because
Right.
I might not be able to do all the things that I want to do. Like, I'm not guaranteed health. I'm not guaranteed tomorrow. So we realized we needed to make some shifts in our business, which we started to make shifts in our business the year prior to the
Hmm.
year that we sold everything to travel.
Okay. And I
Uh,
love that you said that it was a year prior because a lot of times people see you jet setting, they see you, taking photos at the Eiffel Tower, not recognizing that it took a year of prep from like probably from a planning standpoint, but also you had to restructure your business a little bit so
yes,
that you could go away and literally work from any place. So what type
yes.
of structures changes that you do in your business? Like I know that you write, so technically you can write from any place, but
Yes.
I know that you were servicing clients as well.
Yes. So once upon a time, we had multiple courses that we offered. Um, teaching folks how to get published and paid. We also taught some folks how to use corporate consulting because we did corporate consulting. Um, so we had a variety of things. We did ghostwriting, for a
Mm.
lot of clients. We had a clients that, so maybe they were published in Forbes, but they didn't write the articles. We did, so we were their ghostwriter. We taught book marketing. So we had a whole array of services and a lot of done for you services where we created their websites, we created the content for the website, not the actual like techie
I
website
was
stuff.
about to say, I didn't know
No, no,
you
no.
did all that.
We created the words that were going to be on the page. We are wordsmiths. Um, so wrote up their pages, wrote up their blogs, created, so all of that kind of stuff. So we had a lot of done for you clients, which we still could do from anywhere. So we never had a constraint that we couldn't work from anywhere.
Hmm.
But when you have a book of clients where you have calls day to day, every day, all throughout the day, as you're switching time zones frequently,
Hmm.
that can become a challenge. And so there were definitely times back in 2018, 2019, 2020, even, that we were on the other side of the pond, and it's 2 in the morning for us, but
Mm.
when the call was scheduled, we were in the East Coast time
Right.
zone. So I'm like, okay, let's. And so we were like, oh, and then freedom being our highest value, we decided that we wanted to just have more freedom, and having
Hmm.
clients, not that it doesn't give you freedom, but you're a little more limited. So
Right.
I had to maintain a schedule, and then I had to really keep up my like my Calendly,
Hmm.
I would open up spots, but then I'm like, ooh, we're going to be in Tokyo. What is the time difference there?
Right.
So that I'm like, need a physics degree to figure out the math of
Hmm.
where I'm going to be and what the time is. And so we just decided that, as much as we love, coaching, teaching, training, we didn't want to do one-to-one anymore. So we started to transition away. So in like 2019, we retired a bunch of our courses.
Hmm.
We had kind of a fire sale and said, here's a bunch of courses that we are no longer going to teach.
Take it. Last call.
Here it is. They maintain lifetime access for whoever bought it. And then in 2020, we were like, we were teaching this course, large publications masterclass. We taught it 6 times a year live. We were retiring it, and we were going to turn everything into a membership program. So we were going to take all of the different courses that we taught on
Hmm.
all the different elements of, content marketing and creating content for large publications that's written, audio, and video for those that are not aware.
Hmm.
Um, and combined it into a membership program. That way we could have recorded modules, we could have handouts, and then we could, teach the students live like once a month.
Hmm.
So we made that switch. We launched the membership program in January of 2021, and we started to phase out one-to-one clients. So we
Hmm.
spent all of 2021 kind of completing the what do you call it? The documents,
Right.
like the contract, like
Hmm.
whatever was required of us, and not renewing.
Hmm.
So some of
Like
those
phasing
conversations,
them out.
yeah, were not easy to have because what do you mean? No, that we knew that's what we wanted to do because we wanted to be free to float about the world and not have any constraint, if you will, on the timelines.
Right.
So we were doing that, and we had announced it. And every month we were like, this many days left, this many
Hmm.
days left. If you have any outstanding services with us that you've ever bought,
Hmm.
you need them, you have until drop dead date to ask for them, or like it's over.
Right.
And then we were on a cruise, and we were watching this couple with their grandkids, and they were an older couple, and their
Hmm.
grandkids looked to be about 8 to 10. And when they got up from the dinner table, the grandkids were kind of assisting the grandparents and like kind of getting around.
Hmm.
And I was like, absolutely not. I do not want Riley and Jace to have to do, like, I want to like
You want to
have
hang out.
vitality
Yeah.
and have like and I
Hmm.
want to take them places now. Like I don't want to
Right.
wait. So we just were like, why don't we just like do it now?
Hmm.
Like let's just go. Like we
Right.
can run our business from anywhere, and we do all the time, but we
Hmm.
have to like, be back home and be back home, be back home. And So we did. That was like in July of 2021, the last week. So we got home like August because we were over in Europe. We were
Mm-hmm.
Greek Isle cruise, and we put the house up for sale. It sold 3 days later, and
Okay.
September 8th we were gone. Like we were
Wow.
like, boo.
Wow.
But we had put things in place like prior to
Mm-hmm.
that, made that possible. And not that we couldn't have traveled with clients, but it would just been more like, oh God, what time's it?
Yes,
Um,
absolutely. And
and
I mean,
now,
it would
now,
make it would, from a mindset standpoint and a mental standpoint, like you are almost living in two worlds, right? So
right,
you're living in the US, but you're still living in Colombia, you're still living in Tokyo. Like, you want to be able to be present where you're at.
exactly. And I was like, okay, well, let's see now, full transparency, right? That caused a huge loss in revenue.
Mm.
Now, and we wrote an article about this, and it was published in maybe Insider or Ask Men. I don't know. It was
Okay.
recently published.
Mm-hmm.
Like I find out, I can't remember what,
Mm-hmm.
but we recently talked about it. We went from making, over $500,000 to making $200,000
Mm-hmm.
because we gave up all of the done for you, all
Gotcha.
of the corporate clients, all of the ghost writing. So all of those monthly retainers
Mm-hmm.
went away.
Yep.
And for a lot of business owners, that's not something you can embrace. Like your
Mm-hmm.
mind won't let you get there because these internet streets will have you believe in that business growth looks like this. That's the straight
Right.
up projector. And I've been in business for over 30 years, and there's no such straight up. That's just not,
Mm-hmm.
capitalism is lying to you. That's how it goes. Um, and you know, look, if you look at all of the marketing online, right, especially in the
Mm-hmm.
internet marketing space, it's, oh, make six figures, or make seven figures. It's always
Right.
about the money.
Yeah.
It's so shallow, and so it's just, there's no depth to that type
Mm-hmm.
of marketing. And the fact that everybody jumps on that is why people keep doing it. Oh, I
Right.
want to make six figures. Oh, I want to make seven figures. Blah, blah, blah. Nobody's talking about whether that's gross or net. That's a
Mm-hmm.
conversation. We're not talking about the tax consequences with that. We're not talking, not that there aren't people teaching that,
Right.
because but that's the majority of how you see people marketing. And
Mm-hmm.
even when you're celebrating, you're like, oh, my client just made $30,000 this month. You don't
Mm-hmm.
name the client, you don't tag them, you just say, oh,
Right.
about the fact that they spent $25,000 on ads.
Right.
You know, so for us, that chasing that dollar amount
Mm-hmm.
was not lining up with like our freedom goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't need to make that much to live the way that I want to live.
Mm-hmm.
Now, am I going to spit the money if it comes? Absolutely not.
Right. Right.
Absolutely. But we decided that if we were going to have an aligned business
Mm-hmm.
and freedom was our highest value, then we had to stop doing things that didn't really light us up and
Mm-hmm.
focus and double down on the things that did,
I
which
love
for
that you
us,
said that. I love the key word that I love that you said was alignment, because
yes.
you're right. Like, a lot of us, we do chase the dollar because that's what we're taught to do in our business,
Mhm.
not recognizing that if you have dollars, you're rich. But if you have, the freedom, if you have all of the other stuff, if you're able to travel, then you're wealthy. Then you can, be able to sleep at night. So I love that you use that word alignment.
And that was really what mattered to us. We wanted to be free to move about the world. That was really what we wanted to do. We didn't want to have constraints on our time from anyone, from a
Mm-hmm.
client, from a grandkid, from a kid, from anyone. I'm like, look, I did my diligence, like,
Right.
like I put in the work. And then even having that conversation with our kids, they were actually very supportive
Mm-hmm.
of the whole thing, so they were like, wow, okay, that's different. But it is a little different in that, like, when my kid comes home from college, they don't come home
That's
to
out
the
of
house
home.
they've always
Right.
lived in.
Mm-hmm.
They unfortunately have to fly to whatever country we're in and hang out with us over spring break.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's a hard life, but
Right.
someone has to live it.
Right. No,
So
no, I love that. I
that
love
challenge, and
that.
then of course missing the grandkids is a thing, and missing my parents and everybody else. But
Mm-hmm.
you know, still for us, that freedom was the highest value, and taking the revenue hit was absolutely worth it
Mm-hmm.
because it freed up so much of our time to do the things we want to do, which is to write for pubs, to love on our membership community, our
Mm-hmm.
students, help them to realize those content dreams. We have monthly calls with them, and we have co-working sessions with them. So we're
Hmm.
still very much like coaching, if you will, but it's in a
Right.
group setting versus one-to-one. We have strategy sessions, so we do take one-off strategy sessions. So
Hmm.
wants a full plan, we'll have a strategy session with them to lay out the map, but then they
Hmm.
do the implementation. So, but it was just really what made sense for us when we were really trying to focus and be aligned. And, you know, now we're just live wherever we want for however long we
Right.
want.
Right. Right.
Well,
Right.
we live there as long as the visa allows, because in the global community, right? Where it's funny how if you're an American living somewhere else, you're an expat.
Hmm.
But if you come from
Right.
somewhere to America, you're an immigrant.
Right.
You're trying to immigrate here.
Hmm.
We're immigrants too, because we're in another country and we're not from here. So we might have fancy terms for it, like expat community.
Right.
But no, you an immigrant, and as long as you don't overstay your visa, you're okay. So we stay in a country as long as the visa
As
allows.
long as they don't kick you out. Look.
No, we don't kick me out. Yeah, I
Right.
don't want to be kicked out. I don't want any dings on my passport. So, we will stay, if it's a 30 days or 60 days or 100, whatever the immigration officer gives me on my stamp
Hmm.
when I enter.
Right. So you've been literally a zillion places. What's like the one place that you and Kamazi have lived and then you plan on going back, if there's a place?
Wow. Well, we that's the constant conversation, because at some point we know we're going to like settle back down, if you will.
Hmm.
It will not be in the United States. I can
Okay.
guarantee you that.
Okay.
Um, the train wreck of an experiment that is American democracy is like off the rails, and I'm not trying to be here for it.
Right.
So we again, we have plans in place, secondary passports, all those
Mhm.
things. So that's a whole separate like conversation of
Right.
how you.
Right. That's a
Um,
whole article they got to read in your
yes.
publication, one of your publications.
But for us, we every time we go somewhere, we're like, "Ooh, could we live here?"
Hmm.
Like, what do we like about it? Now, Kamanzi lived in Colombia for like a year once upon a time,
Hmm.
so he's familiar with here. It's my first time in Colombia, so like the jury's out. Like I've only been here like three
Right.
days,
Right.
so,
Right.
but some of the places that we liked from a residency standpoint that we've considered were in Europe,
Hmm.
Portugal, Spain. Were probably two of the top ones that
Okay.
we've thought about going to, but we have a list of other potentials,
Hmm.
and so we just continue to explore. And now that we're more serious about like the whole relocation process,
Hmm.
now we're doing the due diligence part on, how do you get residency, what is required, because a lot of places, unless you're doing a golden visa, um, you have to live in that country for a specified period of time,
Okay.
like 2 years or 3 years or 5 years, or it
Hmm.
depends. And because all of our family and friends are in the States, we have to look at those visa requirements to see how often am I allowed to leave the country while
Hmm.
I'm trying to get residency. So all of these different things come up, and then getting secondary passports, which we're working on a couple of those. So but yeah, Shantae says Thailand, Germany, Spain. Yes, Thailand is great from a expat community standpoint.
Hmm.
And Germany is another fabulous. I was actually born in Germany, um, so yes. But so again, there's like so many countries, but all of
Cool.
the requirements are so different. So
Well, I
we're
see another course in your future. You can do a globalpreneur life, and you have a YouTube channel.
I
So,
do.
you guys, they chronicle, Cindy and her husband Kamazi. They chronicle their adventures, their globalpreneur life through their globalpreneur life YouTube channel. So make sure you head over to YouTube, go check them out. It's pretty cool to watch and see, and fascinating. And I mentioned it earlier, but it's just really cool to see brown and black people, just doing things that you don't normally see. So make sure
Yeah.
you go out and head over to their YouTube to check that
Yeah,
out.
and man, and two, like people at our age, because you see a
Right,
lot of digital nomads, right? But they're like 20 somethings,
right.
bebopping
They're
around the
doing gap
world,
years. Yes, they're
right?
doing gap
Zero
years.
responsibility, no kids, no, spouse, what have you. So it's a little different. They're doing odd jobs here, there, and everywhere. And we're empty nest dare I say, middle aged, and have kids and grandkids and, parents who are aging, because Gen
Hmm.
X is that,
Right.
we're
That
that sandwich
sandwich.
generation, where we've got kids who are trying to make it as adults, but, hello, US economy. And
Right.
then we have parents who are aging, and the healthcare in the
Right.
US is,
Hello, US economy.
so, there's these challenges. So for us to like piece out, like in the middle of that, talk about you know, the stigmas and like, ooh, who she thinks she
Hmm.
is, like,
Right.
oh,
Right.
I think he abandoned her kids, like,
Mm.
okay, well, you can argue with your mama about that.
Right. Right. Well, I'll be in Paris
Well,
and Thailand and
I'm gonna be over here, drinking this Juan Valdez coffee.
right. No, no, I love it. I love it. I love it. So Cindy is one of the most dynamic speakers, and she is going to be a speaker at my Freedom is the New Flex virtual summit. It is June 15th, and there is also a VIP soiree on June 21st. And this is just really just a taste of what we're going to be chatting with Cindy about. But really, how do you build a business rooted in freedom? Rooted in flexibility. Like if you just tuned in, Cindy has been sharing her globalpreneur journey on how she and her husband literally sold everything and they travel in a suitcase. And I'm like, how in the world do you do that? But they literally just travel with a suitcase and they work from anywhere. And when you talk about boss status, that is the real flex of being able to just get your
And
passport
I know
and leave.
ladies everywhere are clutching their pearls right now because they're like, what about my shoes?
Right.
On my shoes and my accessories and outfit changes. No, I got one suitcase with clothes and
Wow.
two pairs of shoes.
Yeah. And you know
Women's
what?
shoes.
This is the thing because, watching your journey, I've been chatting with my husband about because we love to travel as well. And we've been thinking, and I was telling my husband about your story. And he's like, yeah, I think that we could do that. But he's like, I need a home base. And I'm like, what do we need a home base for? Like, there's just
For
stuff.
stuff.
Right.
For, exactly. Like, but think about it. If you think about just the American dream in general, if you will, um,
Hmm.
it's all about accumulation of stuff. It's
Right.
consumerism.
Yeah.
A bigger house, a bigger car, just more shit that you're going to pack in
Right.
there.
Exactly.
And so it's like, okay, well, what do I have this for? What do I have that for? I mean, like when we so like moving, when you move, you realize just how much crap you've got, right? It's like, oh Lord, you start getting rid of things. Um, but really, like, what is the point of accumulating stuff?
Hmm.
Like, you can't take it with you, right? Same way, like accumulating money. I
Right.
can
And
take it
our
with me.
kids don't want it either. There's
Right. Like, I
studies
mean,
showing our
this is
kids
my
don't want our
mom
stuff.
collects all the Nicky Nacky. And I'm like, you know what? I said, I'm going to pay a company. They're going to clean sweep this place. Because, well, I don't have a house. So where I put it, like, I don't want none of it. And so for us, even when we do settle down, like our thought process is, do I, just get a little like 2-bedroom apartment
Hmm.
somewhere? That way, you know, if the grandkids come to visit or whatever, there's a place for them to
Right.
stay. But
You got a
man,
little one of those. What do they call those? Those Murphy beds that just
right.
pull down.
There you go. You guys gonna sleep together.
Right.
There's a couch if you don't want to sleep together. We can
Right.
sleep here. You sleep here. Stop fighting with your brother. So, like, but like it's for us, it was like giving the middle finger to consumerism,
Hmm.
right? Because it's always more and more and more
Right.
and more. I mean,
And
like
it's
our
never
bowling
enough when you're
concerts
chasing
now.
more.
Yeah, it's like, you know what? Yes. So I wear the same 7 outfits all the time.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And what is the
Right.
problem?
Yeah.
So I
And you
don't
know what?
need
Truthfully, everybody wear the same outfits
like
over and
you
over
all have some
again.
favorite clothes that you wear them
Right.
all the time. But when you're going on vacation, suddenly you have to go buy new clothes. Why? Ain't nobody seen the
Hmm.
clothes you got.
Right.
But it's for the brand. You're like, oh, I'm gonna take pictures, so I gotta,
Yep. Absolutely. So,
it's
Cindy,
all
let's
about
chat about. I don't want to. We've been chatting a lot, and I know that you are busy in a different time zone. So I don't want to, take up too much more of your time. But I do want to chat about like how you, because you're really great at empowering other women and shattering. You've had, just some tremendous experience in being able to shatter the glass ceiling. But I love that you say we're shattering it, but then you go back and grab, somebody else and help them along the way. So what does that look like for you? Like, what's your one advice for the people that are watching online, shattering it, but just doing it your own way?
So for me, I always want to talk about like beyond the glass ceiling, right? Because we talk a lot about shattering the glass ceiling, which, as those of us who are women, those who identify as women, um, but what's next? So once you've shattered the glass ceiling, well, what is up there? What were we
Mm,
fighting so hard to get to? And for me, I want, you know, women, those who identify as women, minorities, anyone who's been fighting to get through the glass ceiling, to remember that once we're there, our objective is not to duplicate the systems that prevented
mm,
us from getting there in the first place.
Say that again. That was a bar.
Yeah. We want to remember not to duplicate those systems. We
Mm,
want to tear down those systems. So not only are you reaching down and helping the next person up, we want to have systemic change, right? Because the systemic barriers that exist, and we don't have time to get into what all of those are, but they are many.
hmm.
We see them play out every single day. If you look at politics and at all,
Right.
it's how do we create that change? Talk about being the change you want to see. How do we create that change? How do we break down those systems? One for me is by telling consumerism to go f off, because I don't need to buy a bunch of stuff. I don't
Hmm.
need ad campaigns from advertisers using psychology tricks to convince me that I need these shoes or this car or these pots and pans.
Hmm.
Nope. And
Not pots and pans.
my husband's a chef. We used to have some really expensive fancy pots. Um, or alternatively, even as we're running our own businesses, what does that look like? Are you utilizing the same systems in your little business that you've created that are the barriers? So what do
Mm,
your job descriptions look like? What do your contracts look like? Are you having people sign NDAs? Like, are you doing all of these oppressive type business practices? Are you duplicating that? And if you are, then
wow.
you really need to have a conversation with yourself about what does that look like. So you're championing breaking the glass ceiling or earning six figures or earning seven figures, but how did you do it? Did you
Hmm.
use the exact systems that we're trying to fight against to do it? Then what are you celebrating?
That, Cindy, is a whole
So for
session
me,
in
that's what
itself.
like the empowerment piece is, like the whole anti-racist business practices, like we're never going to get past capitalism if we keep perpetuating the same systems.
Hmm.
So we have to think about, now, do I get that we have to work within the confines of the systems? Well, absolutely. I
Right.
mean,
Or you ain't gonna get
if
your
I want
visa.
to fly, I got to, like if I want to play the game, I got to play the game. But I have to, if it's my business and I'm setting it up, why am I writing my contract with clauses that are oppressive?
Mm,
Why am I not doing those things? And when I get there, why am I not looking back and saying, okay, how do I show others how to do it? And the more of us that like bust through the ceiling and then say,
hmm.
okay, now what? What do we do different now that we're here? That's what I would like to see.
OMG. So that right there, if y'all missed that part, go back and rewind because she just dropped a whole masterclass in literally like 2 seconds, two sentences for sure. Deani says, wow. Shantae says, preach on. Deani says, that part. So yes, I love, and it shifts the way that we think about how we are approaching our businesses, right? Because many of us left an oppressive environment to be free. But you're
Mhm.
right, we create like boundaries within our own business. We create boundaries where we're not able to be free. We create boundaries where our staff and our employees and the contractors we work with or collaborate aren't free as well. So I love that.
So it's just reimagining, like, what does all of that look like? And even in like sales practices, like a lot of the sales techniques that we've learned over the years are predatory in nature,
Mm, hmm.
and they are like, overcoming objections. No, like, you know, like there's just so many things because we're not taking into account the person who we're dealing with's lived experience, and those are the breakdowns of the existing system. What does their lived experience bring with it? What kind of traumas have they had in their life? What have they
Mm-hmm.
actually been through, that when you're having a conversation with them, there's a barrier to the purchase. Well, you're trying to just overcome it because, oh, believe in yourself. If you believed in yourself, you'd hire a coach. What a trope that is. I mean, talk about gaslighting your potential, your potential client. Like, no, like maybe their lived experience really, really is, trauma stored in the body that won't allow them to take that step. And now you're gaslighting them further about that trauma not being real because, if you believed in yourself, you'd drop $25,000 to pay me to do this, like, oh my
Right.
gosh, the ick factor is like serious. So we really,
Mm-hmm.
really have to examine all of those things. And does it mean you might have less revenue? Yeah, it does. But, you have to like purposefully look at the systems that are in place and examine them and say, how do I not perpetuate this
Mm-hmm.
and still have the success that I want to have?
Mm-hmm.
And what can I do to reframe this, to break it down and change it? Is it easy? Absolutely not.
Right.
Absolutely not. People
Right.
look at you crazy. They look at us like we're crazy. Oh, you took your business from this down to this, and now you only make this, and oh, and I'm like, but I'm happy, and I've seen the pyramids. Have you? Okay,
Mm-hmm.
leave me
Right.
alone. Like I
Right.
spend my money on first class flights. Yes, yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Great flights and nice places to stay. Versus, I don't know, driving. I don't know. I don't know, some fancy expensive car that I can't think of
Right.
right now, or having a bigger house. Like I had a big house,
Mm-hmm.
5 bedroom, 4 bath, pool, hot tub, all the things.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, wow, I'm spending all this money on this when I could like have
When
it
I'm
together.
never here, right? Or I'm only in this one room most of the time, or something
Yeah.
like that. So no, I love that, and I
And
think.
Gianni says, how do we unlearn this? Uh, Gianni, it is a work in progress at all
Mm,
times because we, especially as brown people and as women in particular, we had to assimilate, right, to survive.
mm-hmm. Right.
Assimilation is survival. And our elders, you know, taught us to do that, right? Because they wanted those to, like, my parents grew up, in a time where the civil rights movement was happening.
Mm-hmm.
Interracial marriage wasn't allowed, and all the things. And so their advice to me as a young person was very much about assimilation, flying
Right.
under the radar.
Right.
Like,
Don't
I'm
get noticed.
right, don't get noticed, don't push back. I'm Puerto Rican. My parents were very, very, very clear that I was not going to speak with an accent,
Mm.
that I
So
had to
that
be
you could blend in.
right. I had to be very proficient in my English. Now I could speak Spanish, read it, write all the things, but they
Mm-hmm.
were very clear that it was going to be English first,
Mm.
Spanish second. Why? Because of the way that they were treated for
Mm-hmm.
that Hispanic accent. So all of these different things. My grandmothers were very much about, sadly to say, lighten up the gene pool.
Mm.
Marry a white man. Marry a white man. Like
Those
all
were
of
the words that actually came out.
yes,
Wow.
because of what they experienced when they
Mm-hmm.
came to this country.
Wow.
So, all of those lived experiences are real. And so we it's kind of like when you have bad money mindset, right? When your mom's
Mm-hmm.
like, "Oh, money don't grow on trees," and what do you think I made of money? And blah,
Right.
blah, blah. Like you inherit all of this bad, poverty mindset and all these
Mm-hmm.
things, and then you have to break through those cycles. It's the same thing with all the systematic oppression that exists. You don't even notice it most of the time because it just is there and it's
Right.
existing. Like,
Yep.
it's like when we try to explain a microaggression to
Mm-hmm.
a non-black or non-brown person.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, "What?"
Yeah, because we've just
Like,
they're used to running on autopilot. It's just
right.
it's
And you're
something
like,
they
"No,
don't even
that's
see.
microaggression." And they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"No, it's not. I'm not a racist." And it's like, well, you kind of are. Like, and that's the problem, right? We've equated racist with bad person.
Mm-hmm.
No, the racism is the system that's been set up that's bad. You
Right.
were just socialized into a system and you didn't know different, which is
Mm.
why learning, when you know better, you do better, right? It's the
Right.
same with, like, it's Pride Month. It's June, it's Pride Month.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so that homophobia that
Mm-hmm.
people possess, that they don't realize they possess, is real, but it's been ingrained and trained into you. It's just like with the words and the language, and like words matter. I say that all the time. I'm a
Right,
writer,
right. Yep.
speaker, words matter. So what words are you using to describe things? Like that's
Mm-hmm.
also, systems are like, if you're, we're ableist. Our society is very ableist. If you're disabled in any way, it's very challenging for you to maneuver through
Mm-hmm.
society.
Right.
So there's so many ways that the systems are set up for the, cisgendered, white, heterosexual Christian male
Right.
as the center of the universe. Our
Mm-hmm.
founding fathers all fit that description.
Right.
And the further you get from that center, the more marginalized you become.
Mm-hmm.
And if you add physical disabilities and all the different things to it. So it's not that any individual person is, and not that there are not bad people, but you know what I'm saying. So you just internalized misogyny, you've internalized racism, you've internalized all of these ogenies and isms that exist,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't know it until you know it.
Right.
And so it's hard to break a cycle that you can't see. And for those of us who have been pointing out that cycle, mostly from a race standpoint,
Mm-hmm. Or gender standpoint.
or
Yep.
gender standpoint, um, you get a lot of pushback because people don't like to see themselves as a bad person.
Right.
So it's like, I'm not saying you're a bad person. I'm just saying that you've perpetuated a system. I've perpetuated a system. I
Mm-hmm.
absolutely have, because I didn't know better.
Right.
And I still do from time to time, because I don't, it's just
Yeah,
so
blinders. Right.
right. I'm blind to it. So there's just, and in business, it's the same way, contract language, accessibility to your programs. Like we have a student who is legally blind.
Mm.
So I do a lot of screen share in my teaching. That wasn't helping her at all. She couldn't
Right.
see it.
Right.
So I had to, with her assistance, because that's another thing, infantilization of marginalized classes by the dominant class telling us what we need.
Right.
I asked her,
Mm-hmm.
what do you need? How could I make this better and more accessible to you?
Mm-hmm.
And so now I read everything out, and I let the class know before we start. I'm like, hey, Nancy's on the line today. She's on the phone. She's, visually impaired. So I'm going to be reading out the things on the screen. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not, just being difficult. This is
Right.
to ensure that she has accessibility to the information, providing audio only for certain things. So there's just so many things that we don't think about, you know, day to day, when, because I'm pretty privileged. I'm able-bodied. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was born in the, America, so I got a lot of freedom to do all kinds of crazy things I
Right.
want to do. And so there's all these things that you don't think about, but so don't let them overwhelm you, because you might get, like, oh my god, and the world is burning. No, the world is burning, but a lot of good people doing a lot of good things, and grace is the name of the game. For me, it's about calling people in
Mm-hmm.
and saying, hey, I learned this about this business practice, let's try it. And just acknowledging and validating somebody else's lived experience.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And that this is we're talking about freedom, we're talking about flexibility in our business, but what you just shared is how we break free from just norms and break free from mindsets that we have been conditioned with all of our lives for generations, really, that we just hadn't realized. And we bring that personal stuff into our business, and it affects how we move in our business space.
Right, it is right. And when people say, "Oh, it's not personal, it's just business," business is personal. you know
Absolutely.
like that's
Yep.
what the whole no like and trust factor is, right? You're
Yeah,
trying to be personal with
absolutely.
somebody. So if you're trying to tell me business, it's just business, not personal, that's you trying to deflect your poor
Right.
behavior.
Exactly. Right.
That's what you're
Exactly.
doing. You didn't act right, and you're just like, oh, well, like, because there's a way to handle
Hmm.
things that you don't have to say. It's just business. It's
Right.
kind of like when
Absolutely.
you're like, oh, because I said so. You don't have a good reason. Because like occasionally I have opened my mouth and my mom has fallen out, and I'm like, oh no, I did not just say that.
Yes, you did.
And then I have to question, like, I did it in my own parenting, like, why do I have that rule?
Hmm.
Is like, it is kind of arbitrary, as my teenager just
Right.
so aptly pointed out. Like, look, listen, if you want to examine your flaws, get a
Hmm.
teenager in your life.
Absolutely. Because they will literally be a mirror
They
just
will
like this.
just,
Like you said, what? Oh,
well,
you
yeah,
did
they
that?
will hammer you. you know,
Right.
but it's a beautiful thing
Mm-hmm.
because otherwise you might not question those things that you blindly say or do,
Right.
because what really was the reason? Like, why did I have this rule? You
Mm-hmm.
know, does this person need this rule? Like,
Yep.
it's kind of like, in the workplace, when you create HR policies that affect everyone because one person acted a fool. You're like, what the, and so your employees are different people, so you need to manage them differently. Your
Mm-hmm.
kids are different people.
Right.
You need to parent them differently and
Yeah.
accordingly. So like the level of responsibility one can handle might not be what another can handle. And adjusting your parenting style, which is the same way you would do if you were adjusting your coaching style if you're coaching a client.
Mm-hmm.
Now you may have a system that you
Right.
use,
But you adjust the system
you
based
adjust
on.
that based on the client. Same thing with your parenting, same thing with your business contract. So
Yep.
many different things we could look at,
Love it.
to advance the whole freedom flex, right? Because
Yep.
you want to be free to be who God designed you to be.
Mm-hmm.
Like, God didn't design me to be Chanel.
Right.
God didn't design me to be Donna.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to embrace what I was given. Our kids need to embrace what they were given. You do not own your children. They are not for you
It
to
feels like
mold
it
into
sometimes
little, they are not for you to mold into little mini yous. They are, you were the vessel, you brought them forward, and you're just to guide them along their path because they came with their own purpose.
though.
They
Right.
were endowed with a purpose as well. So, we sometimes parent that right out of them. And then,
Mm-hmm.
we go to therapy as adults, right? We
Right.
figure out what we're going to discard that we learned about as a kid, embrace. And so I'm hoping that my kids, get that sooner than I did. Um,
Right.
but it's the same in business. How do we, unlearn
Mm-hmm.
practices maybe that weren't great? Or are we building our business in a certain way because that's what everybody else is doing, or that's what
Mm-hmm.
seems successful for, that's how they earn seven figures. So I may as
Right.
well have a funnel that leads to a back end offer for a coaching program.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my God, that sounds like hell. No, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
I want to have a thriving community where I get to talk with my members on a daily basis, and we come together at predetermined times. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to write, I want to travel, and I want to eat delicious food all over the world. That's what I want to do.
Right. And drink coffee. I love it. I love it. I love it. And there's some key themes that I heard you throughout. Alignment, flexibility, unlearning bad behavior or norms. And I know that you tuned in yesterday when I talked with Donna, but challenging the status quo. Like, even though those aren't the words you actually use, but that is really what you also, the theme that,
Yes.
that was throughout is challenging the status norms. So Cindy is going to be one of my keynote speakers at the Freedom is the New Flex virtual summit. It kicks off on June 15th. I'll make sure that the link is in the chat as well as in the caption so that you can head over there for you get your RSVP, grab your ticket. It is a full day. If you enjoyed this conversation, you are literally in for a treat because it's a full day where you are going to gain valuable insights, strategies, tips, techniques, but then also get inspiration from women like Cindy who are challenging the status quo, who are out there busting out the norms and not just shattering the glass ceiling, but actually looking beyond and how do we move forward and what's next. So I'm going to drop the link. It's freedomisaflex.com. Make sure that you RSVP, grab your ticket. Cindy, I know that you got a couple things going on because you are, even though you're traveling the world, you still have, stuff that you do,
Yes.
businesses that you. So where can we find you online?
You can find me, Cindy R. Constable, everywhere. So on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, Clubhouse. So Cindy R.
Everywhere.
Constable, you can find me anywhere by that name. And on our website, rgicai.com, where you can learn about our published and paid community, our workshop for pitching. So all that kind of stuff. So
Awesome.
we are everywhere, and I'm really looking forward to the Freedom Flex conversation because the speaker lineup is just fire,
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
cannot wait to have all of that synergy and all of that good energy just flowing as we exchange, ideas and motivations. It'll be fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So freedomisaflex.com and it's June 15th. I look forward to seeing you there. And thanks, Cindy, so much for taking time from Colombia to chill with us and give
My
us that
pleasure.
insight. It's been a ball.
Thanks
All
everybody for
right.
being on.
All right. See you online soon.